Today's episode is brought to you in full by Heartlifter International, a 501c3 dedicated to making home and family the safest, most secure place on earth. Learn how you can donate and support the podcast at heartliftcentral.com. Now, settle in for today's remarkable conversation with Janelle. Wherever you find yourself today, may these words help you become stronger in every way.
Hello and welcome to today's Heart Lift with Janelle. I am sitting here with someone who I've been trying to have on this show for a while now, and we made it happen. Pastor, can I still call you Pastor, or I'll just call you Russell?
Yes.
Russell, thank you so much for being here. Your book, His Face Like Mine, it is something. It's deep. It's what we need. And your story is remarkable. So welcome to the show.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Janelle.
You are just astounding. I love the word remarkable. It's one of my favorite words. And you are remarking in this book many things. The power of God, the power of a parent's prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about your daddy and his prayers, but also your now wife. So I had to crack up when I started reading this book. So we're going to start with this because I had to stop, and so it starts with the God who kisses our wounds. One night years back, my fiance Anna and I were making out.
With that line, I went back and forth. I was like, all right, do I make it? Do I soften it? Do I say we were embracing? I was like, there's just no way around it. We're engaged. We're swooning over each other. Went right in.
You are getting in need to be married.
Yes.
All of that is coming. We need to be married, woman. I know. Yes. You're right. She lived with 6 other women in a house in Portland, Oregon, and we found ourselves alone. Dangerous, which didn't happen often. Thank God. We decided to take advantage of the privacy, as our across the pond say. We were in our mid-20s, had been together for a year, were recently engaged, and swooning over each other. It was a happy season. In the middle of the moment, she suddenly pulled back. Fill us in. Why did she pull back, Russell?
Yeah. Well, I was learning in real time as well as I shared.
You were.
Yeah. So, she pulled back and she was kind of like, stop that. And I had no idea what she was referencing. As I say in the book, I hoped it wasn't my kissing. Though, I don't say this in the book, but I joke about it. Due to all my surgeries, I have no feeling in my lower lip.
Oh.
So we joke that our first kiss was Anna's worst first kiss ever. The reason why is because she was going for my butt. You know how you can't go just 2 lips. You have to go like a bottom lip or an upper lip kisser?
Yeah, you got to choose it.
My bottom lip. But I have to go for the bottom lip. Otherwise, I can't feel. So she got my bottom lip, so I couldn't feel anything. So I was like a fish just flopping on the dock,
Wow.
And so anyway. So
that's intense, though. That's a behind the scenes of the journey. So you will have to do a course on the journey of kissing.
Yeah. The theology of kissing.
The theology of kissing. Oh my God, I love that. I love that so much. At least an article, relevant something.
Yeah.
Come on.
So,
I love it.
She pulls back and she goes, stop that. And I had no idea what she was referencing. And she goes, do you know you always do that? And again, no idea. So she reveals to me that so with my Goldenhar Syndrome, which is what I was born with, I had a lot of brokenness on the left side of my face, a lot of scars, a lot of surgeries. And a lot of shame. That's really like the core emotion. And she goes, every time I try and kiss the left side of your face, you don't let me. This was all subconscious to me. I either was, redirecting her lips back onto my lips, or I would just praise her. I'd be like, oh, I love you. You're so beautiful. I couldn't just receive a kiss. Couldn't receive a kiss there. And she goes, and she got so frustrated at that point. She was like, do you not think I see you? Like all of you? Do you not think I love all of you? Let me kiss you. And again, I still say those words and I'm just stunned. Like I'm frozen. Like it was such a powerful just puncture, just totally cut through all my facade, cut through all my pretense, and expose the vulnerable heart within of
Deeply.
what I, didn't realize at the time, but I gained the language for later is, no, I didn't think she saw all of me. And
Why would you?
I thought that if she did see all of me, she wouldn't love all of me. Because how could you? Because I was full of so much shame about this place. So she proceeded to essentially she made me just sit there, and she kissed the left side of my face.
Can I read it? Can I read
Sure.
it?
Yeah.
Read it. It's so good. Okay. She wasn't repulsed by my wounds. She wasn't overlooking them. She saw them for what they were, and she knew there would be no me without them and the stories they told of my life. So she loved them because they made the real me, and she loved the real me. She's something.
She is. You want to have her on the podcast?
I do want to have her on, and your mother, and maybe your dad too, and everyone. No, as she tenderly kissed, this is just so well written. I can tell you've probably written 1,000 sermons in your life. As she tenderly kissed every inch of wounded flesh on my face, every mark that carried the tragic baggage of all the rejections I had ever experienced, all the stares. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I had ever garnered, all the teasing I had been subject to. Just breaks my heart. And I know, I just can't imagine all my self-loathing. The shock and rage in my body began to give way. This is so critical, Russell.
Mm-hmm.
It melted within me. What replaced that rage was an emotion without a name. There's another thing to write about.
Mm-hmm.
The closest thing I can call it is grief. Deep grief. Yet it transcended even that. I think it was a death. Something was dying in that moment. I began to wail. Tell me about that moment, because the way that you wrote this, and we'll come back to this, I will use forever in my work with others, because you define embodied.
Yeah.
You give a very difficult concept, flesh and bone, and heart and marrow. So you begin to cry.
Yeah. It was so visceral. So when she first started kissing and just forcing me to receive her kisses on my reconstructed ear and my scars, rage exploded in me. I had so much rage, and I write about that.
Yep.
I was so angry. I wanted to scream. I wanted to push her away. I wanted to. I originally, I think, like my cynicism wanted to spit. Like I was so angry because I'd never been touched so vulnerably in this space before. I was terrified.
Interesting.
And she kept kissing. She kept joining me, and as she joined me in that place, and like I said, the shock and the rage began to give way, and I realized, like, my soul felt what she wanted to communicate, which was that she loved me. She saw me. She saw the parts of me that I thought I'd been hiding from everyone, hiding from myself. She saw me.
Yeah.
And she chose me. And as that realization just welled up in my body, the shock and rage gave way. And what replaced it was this deep grief. And I just wailed. I mean, it was the types of tears I pray people only have like once or twice in their life. Like it was
just gave me chills.
So hard.
I felt it. I just felt it last week. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did.
Well, I'm so sorry. Yeah.
No, it's this is kind of what I want. I won't interrupt here. I'll add my story later.
Yeah.
Because you can't embody God's love. Like what she did to you was walk you through 1,000 years of therapy, number one.
Yes.
I mean, because your body had what we call somaticized all the bullying, all the stares. Like you had been touched by 1,000 doctors. I have no doubt in my mind. Your face had been touched 1,000 million times.
Yeah.
But I think what was so significant about this beautiful work of your wife
It hadn't been touched like this.
No.
And I write about this. I said, like, even what was different about Anna was that we weren't flesh and blood. Like in my subconscious, I had said, well, my parents had touched me like that.
Of
I mean, not
course.
that deep of
Not
affection.
intimately.
Not intimately,
Correct.
but they had touched me like that. But my
Yeah.
subconscious was, well, they're forced to. You know, I was born into the
Yeah.
family to receive me. So here's was something different, because here was a woman who did not have to choose me. She was choosing me. And she was choosing me in the precise place that I felt was most worthy of condemnation. And that if her love was there, so that's where, like, I cried so hard, the tears wouldn't even come. Like I just like almost convulsed. I convulsed.
Mm-hmm.
I convulsed with just so much singular grief. All the years were just pouring out.
All the years.
All the trauma, all the baggage.
Yeah.
And she just kept kissing. She just kept staying. Wow. It was so powerful. It was one of those moments you look back. I mean, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it.
You should. I've got chills everywhere, and I'm thinking, who is this woman? Like, who is this woman?
Well, I think
created for you.
You know, well, so even that, I forget if I ended up. I think I do put it in another chapter. It's interesting how the Lord just orchestrates our lives. Her dad was born 2 years before the polio vaccine. So he contracted polio as an infant. So he has his own story. So he always his entire life he had a leg. It's like a little bit of a limp. He has scoliosis in his spine. So the first man that she ever loved had very visible physical imperfections. So like when she met me, it kind of fit her experience in so many ways.
That's amazing.
I didn't realize. So it is interesting how the Lord does those things.
Well, he fashioned her. He says, I mean, skeptics, whatever you want to say, I believe God fashioned me for my husband, and he fashioned my husband for me.
Yeah.
And, you know, the last sentence of that section in the book of where you write, the God who kisses our wounds. It's just, I can't even get beyond that. I don't even know if we'll get beyond that. Because you wrote, and I encountered God like never before.
Yeah.
That's what, to me, this book, yes, it is your remarkable story. And it goes so deep, and you've been able to, like I said a few minutes ago, tangibly put into words processes that are really difficult, even as a therapist sitting across from somebody. Like the final work of trauma healing is embodiment. Like, come home to your body. Fill your body. Don't try to escape it, you know, and consolidate all the wounds. Okay.
Well, this right here was, I mean, this was the start of the journey is what this was.
Talk to me.
So this was 2013 when I had this moment, or 2014. I can't remember exactly.
So you've been married almost 10 years or no?
10 years. Yeah. 10 years.
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah. This was the start of the journey, where it was like the conception of realizing how out of touch with my soul I actually was. And this was so remarkable because I was an intern at the time. I was I was training to be a pastor. There were layers of my soul that I believed the gospel, but there were other just as real, deep layers of my soul, which I had not allowed the love of God anywhere close to, which was revealed in this. So that was like the start of the journey of the embodiment. I love the way you said it, of like coming back home to our body. My book basically tells that story.
It does.
God is bringing me back home to my body, which is ultimately to Jesus's body.
You can't divorce the two. It's so integrated. We are spirit, soul, and body. That's what we see in First Thessalonians. He tells us that 5:23. It's like
100%.
Right?
And that's really like why I think even I felt so compelled, and I felt like the Lord asked me to write this book. And that's even, you know, the Saint Athanasius line, God became like us that we might become like him. There were levels of my human condition that I would say, oh yeah, God became like that. But there were other deep levels of our human experience and each of our individual stories, which for me was housed within the stories of my face, which I subconsciously did not believe that God embodied, that Jesus did not identify with. And this
Mhm.
book is the realization of like, no, 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 no. When Athanasius says God became like us, God became
Yes.
like you, he means that Jesus Christ, the Son of God incarnate, experienced every precise embodied experience you have in your life, the good, the bad, and especially the ugly.
Mhm.
That he's identified, entered, and knows it intimately, that deep pain, that deep wound, just as you. And when we realize that, and that's the journey that the Lord took me on in this book that I share, and my prayer is that through this story, people have the courage to let God into their deep wounds too. That when we realize that he has entered and experienced the precisely same things,
Mhm.
the things that I don't even want to look at anymore. Like I want to push so far down and be like,
Mm.
no, there's no way God will save me, but not that part. No, I think the message of the
Yeah.
gospel is that God saves us through that part of us.
Oh.
That we haven't met the living God until we've met him in the places of our souls that we think are so full of shame, so ugly, so broken,
Mhm.
that there's no possible way that God would choose us there. When we
Mhm.
realize that God actually has chosen us there in Jesus, and specifically Jesus on the cross, that is a game changer. That just changes everything.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, you got me preaching now.
I want you
In
to
the morning.
preach. I'm sitting here going, please preach. Please. This is the message of the Spirit right now. I feel it so deeply and am so, now I know why this has been obstacle after obstacle to get this here. But there's just so much there. Let me say this. Okay. Let me clarify. You couldn't have known. You tell me if I'm on the right page here.
Yeah.
I am going through something personally as well, where I left a neurologist office. I went into the bathroom in the office and I just got in the stall and it became a prayer closet. And I was just like, okay, I don't know. I don't know how to make these changes. I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't even know. She's telling me I better stop doing this work. I won't be alive next year. Like my body's keeping the score. Okay, swirl, right? But I think you did not know when Anna started to caress and
Mhm.
intimately kiss your wounds. I don't think you knew because it was so lodged in your subconscious.
Mhm.
That's what I wrote here.
Yep. It was so
Uh,
deeply buried. It was so
the
deeply buried.
subtle inherent childhood wounds, we like the leper. You write about the leper in Matthew 8. You write about, make me whole, Jesus, make me whole. That was your father's prayer. But I had done everything I knew how to do to be whole.
Yeah.
And so then the prayer becomes just send me somebody,
Yeah.
send me
Yeah.
something. And I feel like you didn't even pray that.
Yeah.
You're just making out with your girl, as engaged couples do.
Yes, totally.
And God just bestowed, is the word, endowed the deepest healing that I promise you, a
Yeah.
million years of trauma therapy, I'm not sure would have gotten you there.
No, no, it wouldn't have.
No.
It was such an embodied
Yeah.
um, moment. It was such a gift. It was such, and it also just, reminds me that like that God created this for relationship.
Mm.
Yes, I mean it's what is that saying that no one hurts you like family, but also no one heals you like family either. There's this sense that
It's beautiful.
um, there is this moment with Anna was a moment with the Lord, but it was also a moment with Anna. It was a moment with a human being, with another
Flesh,
human,
blood,
blood made in the image of
tenderness,
God. Yes,
empathy, connection.
broken too, has her own brokenness, her own
Of
storms and
course.
trauma. And just such a beautiful, like almost Trinitarian image in a sense. We're being swept up in the Trinity
Yeah.
of what He's
Go.
longing to do.
Preach. Come
What does
on.
it mean to love God and love our neighbor?
I don't
And
know.
so, yeah,
I want you to
you're
tell
exactly
us.
right. 1,000 years of trauma counseling couldn't have done such of that deep work that moment had with Anna for sure.
Hmm. So then, Pastor Russell, how I put like, how then, because one of the major themes of this book, which is just amazing, I'm going to read this. You write, whatever wound was inflicted upon your soul, you find yourself feeling painfully less than whole. And I will just say
Mhm.
painfully less than. And
Yeah.
you do address it. What's worse, these wounds calcify. This is our mojo here, what we do on this in this community. These wounds calcify that word, well done, into beliefs and attitudes that form habits and lifestyles that only make the pain worse. The unique pain you carry subconsciously deep down in that place you have put over here and said, don't touch,
Mhm.
as internal family systems say, we've got guardians inside, we've got protectors, and they're like, not going there. But
Right.
Anna pierced them. Anna
Yeah.
wooed out, as we would say in internal family systems, exile. Come on back to me,
Yeah. Yeah.
Woohoo. Okay, I'm finished. Leads you to inflict then painful wounds onto others too, even if unintentionally. This is what I love. That rejection may lead you to reject yourself and others. That abuse may lead you to abuse yourself and others. And that's where I put red flags. That gruesome word spoken over you has spun a web of lies so thick in your mind and heart, you can't even begin to cut through it. This is so well written. To see the sun shining on anyone's face, much less your own. And I love that you say the sun shining on anyone's face, because your face has been your journey. It grows deeper, darker, lonelier, wider, making you feel like there's no way out. Lord, would you make me whole? Holy moly, moly. So let's fast forward from Anna. Sorry, it's
Yeah.
just,
No, totally.
I want to link everything back, every part of your story, just for our conversation today about embodiment, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think embodiment is the hardest, like I said before, concept journey in our faith and in our lives, mentally and emotionally, to come home, to fully inhabit our story.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. That's been my experience.
And you're helping, like, this is a book for such a time as this. Your story, obviously, God is so wise. He knew we would need this story. He knew we would need you to really help us, because I'm here in my breathing room. This is where I just flesh out on this floor, like, I don't think I know your love for me.
Yeah.
And First John 4 tells me, I can only know you by knowing your love. And there's no punishment in love, but I'm still punishing myself. Okay.
Right.
So flash forward to your time as a church planner in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
You're married by now?
We are. Yes, we're
Okay.
married.
So you're kissing the heck out of each other. I love it. Okay. And you're in Brooklyn, which is I just love that city, from
Yeah.
2015 to 2021. And you write, I was 27 years old at the start of that journey. And in many ways, I was like trying to ride a bike while putting it together. So how did this time
Yeah.
lead you to this? You said it led me to healing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you start with
So
Anna's kiss, you're coming unfurled,
totally.
you go through the rage, you go through getting out all of the layers that have protected
Well,
you. Okay.
it's also, as you're well aware, like I wish I could say for myself or any human being, I just have to learn a lesson once and then I got it in my
Oh
body.
no.
Right.
Sanctification.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So that moment with Anna was almost like the conception of something, like
Yeah.
something happened inside of me that I was aware had never happened inside of me. There
Right.
was a healing that took place. There was a
Awakening.
revelation,
An awakening.
an
Yeah.
awakening, but I wasn't fully awoken yet. So
No.
then forward, and there's years of me still believing the old lies about myself. Oh, people don't, I mean, I have moments like I'm learning to believe the truth, but there was also still the realization that there were deep wounds in my soul
Oh
that
yeah.
stem from this deep wound, which I call it my central wound. And
Yes, I
I think
love
we
that.
all are
Your
infected
core.
by
Mhm.
sin, but we all have certain central wounds,
We do.
certain central stories, certain like moments that we
Pivots.
keep playing. Yes, pivots.
Okay.
Yep. So for me, my central wound related to my face, and
Yeah.
that was reinforced by being stared at. That was reinforced by the moments of rejection. That was reinforced by being a sixth grade boy and playing spin the bottle. And when the bottle landed on me and the girl screamed "ooh" and ran away laughing, like
Oh,
those are the
Russell.
moments.
Oh my
Yeah,
God. Oh my God.
those are where it reinforces. So I have this
Mhm.
moment with Anna, which is beautiful and so awakening, and also like now I'm testing it out in my life. Like, is it true? Is this the truth? Or is
Yeah.
this the lie? You know what I mean? Because
Oh,
my entire
it's
experience
cognitive
said,
dissonance. Your brain's going, wait a
exactly,
minute, everything's rutted and rigid. You know, these
exactly.
are neural pathways that have been
Right.
rigidly put
Because
in your brain.
my entire lived experience has been the opposite. And now I
Hmm.
have this moment like, well, I mean,
It's
speaking
confusing.
very candidly, like even just realizing, I mean, there was a time in high school. In high school, I mean, high school is high school,
High
right? We're
school is high
so
school.
high
Oh,
school. But there
Jesus.
was a girl, who I was good friends with, and we were really good friends. And I learned that she had a crush on me.
Oh.
And when I learned she had a crush on me, this is really tragic. Like talk about our trauma. When I learned she had a crush on me, that actually lowered my respect for her in my eyes.
Oh, wow.
Because I could not believe,
Wow.
I was
That
like,
she would.
if you find me attractive, then I don't trust your discernment on anything. How could you find me attractive? Isn't that so horrible? Like that was
Oh,
my
I just
set.
want to
Like
dig
that was,
into it, but it's not a counseling session. So,
but just the way this idea of like you're saying that I'm attractive, but
uh-huh.
that's not my lived experience at all. So you
No.
must be delusional. That's not what I get from anyone else, you know? So it's just
Sure.
this. So,
Because you
so
think
basically
you're
this thing of like,
repulsive. If am I right?
exactly,
It deep down,
exactly.
that
Yes.
anger, that all that comes from the repulsion.
So that's why I say, even in that line that you read of like, we have these core wounds that
Hmm.
calcify into beliefs,
Yeah,
narratives, which I believe so much of the gospel is learning to believe our new identity,
it
learning
is.
to trust
Hmm.
God's word of who's my new identity.
Bingo. You just said what
So
I was going to say.
that's what I
Yeah.
go, yeah.
You know,
Why is
because
she more trustworthy than anyone else who has stared at me with repulsion? Why is she like the trustworthy voice that tells me who I really am in the
oh my
world's
God,
eye? You know what I
that's it.
mean?
Oh no,
So,
I just want everyone listening to know what you mean because that
mhm.
is layer upon layer upon layer of those core wounds, those central wounds is it has calcified.
In church planting, what was revealed to me, I had a friend who was a church planter. I think ministry does this, but I think it's all of us. Wherever we find ourselves, we can trust that the Lord has put us in those places for a reason. And I heard
Yes.
someone say in ministry with planting a church, he goes, at first I thought God called me to plant this church because he wanted to save people through this church. And then I realized 3 years in, God called me to plant this church because he wanted to save me,
I
you
know.
know? And I think it's both and. Like
It's
he puts us in
maturity.
situations. He
Hmm.
wants to use us for his purposes for others, but also he's using that situation for us. So coming and planting a church where you're so helpless, like it's such a vulnerable experience to start something from scratch. What
Right.
happened and what I recount in the chapters, which are very human. It's not about church planting, but it's about how church planting revealed my soul's wounds that were like where I needed people's approval, or I had shame over my
Yes.
sense of how do I enter a place, or my relationship. So I have a chapter about Anna's and my marriage, and it's
Good.
not as lovey. It has
It's not like
elements
the
of our
first
pain,
story. Right.
not like the first story. And because there was wounds that the Lord was getting to the root of. So what I say is,
Ooh.
I follow this trope. In chapter one, I develop what I think is the biblical model, the gospel of wound, kiss, scar.
I
I think we
know.
have deep wounds. The
Russell.
love of God kisses them, and then he heals them, turns them into scars. And what I think is the whole point of the gospel is that we're supposed to boast in our scars. That's why
Oh,
Jesus comes
it's
out of the tomb with
just
scars.
so
That's what Paul talks
good.
about in 2 Corinthians 12. Like, I will boast because when I'm weak, then I'm strong. I think the proof that the gospel is true. And the hope we have for the world is when we hold up our scars of what once were embarrassing wounds, and the world might
Devastating.
laugh, might stare, but they have their own wounds that they're hiding. And we actually show them our scars and say, hey, you can be healed too.
I love
Come
that.
into the light and be healed.
I've really never heard it
You know?
said that way. It's just blowing my mind.
So that's that's like the model. And so each chapter through the church plant, I talk about different wounds in my own soul that were being exposed, being kissed by the love of God, and being turned into scars. But really, one chapter, chapter 7, is like the climax of the book. That's where I get into my core wound and really the narrative. Because I think we all have, I forget what you said earlier, but we all have a core belief about ourselves.
We do. And
my core belief, no one ever said this to me, but 1,000 million different experiences calcified to this core belief at the depth of me. I am ugly. That was my core belief.
How'd you get there? Like, what was the day? What was the day that you went, oh my God, that's my core? Like, there's usually an aha moment.
It was, well, I'm not sure if I should give it away or not, but it was from that chapter.
Okay, now don't give it away. You got to get the book.
It was a counseling exercise where my Christian counselor, she had me walk through my earliest memory of the hospital. Because she goes, Anna and I, we went in just for some couples counseling. And this is what, funny for anyone who's ever done this. You're going in and you want couples counseling, but you really want them to say, problem, right? Yeah.
Not my problem.
And we get there and she goes, Russ, I don't think you've really processed your face that much. And I remember she said that and I was so angry. I was like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding? But she was exactly right. I hadn't processed. Even though I'd had that embodied moment with Anna, I still didn't want to process my pain. I wanted to get over it. I wanted to overcome it, but I didn't want to process it.
No, who does?
So she had me go back.
Who does?
Exactly. She had me go back to my earliest memory of the hospital.
Okay,
and
we'll
she
read
took
about
me
it.
through this exercise. And the Holy Spirit just did some deep work. I encountered Jesus in a profound way.
Ooh.
And really what happened is I realized what my core narrative was about myself. And Jesus broke that narrative. He said, that's not true. I have a new one for you. And from that moment, I can share it. Yeah. So basically I had this moment with Jesus in this scene where Jesus, essentially I was a 6-year-old boy sitting on the hospital bed, and I was in the scene. And she goes, what do you want to say to that boy? Which is me. It's the 6-year-old me.
Yes.
And I couldn't think of anything to say to him. I didn't have anything. Because I was like, what? He couldn't understand it. He doesn't know what he's about to experience. He just has to live through it.
Oh, yeah.
So in the scene, how powerful is this? This is the Holy Spirit. What I did is I walk over to him and I just hug him. I just embrace him.
You embody him.
I just want him to know him.
Bring him close.
And I'm not going anywhere. And then it wells up in me. I know what I want to say. And so I look in his eyes and I go, my boy, it's true. You are broken. More broken than you can possibly imagine.
Literally.
But I need you to hear me.
Literally.
Yes. I go, but I need you to hear me. You are not ugly. And there's a difference. You're broken, but you're not ugly. And that's when she goes, and where's Jesus? And I realized, and I won't go through all of it.
No. I want everyone to use it as their own healing experience by reading through it. That's right. In a quiet place.
The older version of me was playing the role of Jesus. The one who was once in the bed. The one who also experienced what it's like to be broken but not ugly. And what Jesus was communicating to me in that moment is brokenness is objective. Yes, we were born into a sinful world. We're broken. More broken than we can imagine. He's not denying that. Yes, that's true.
No.
But ugliness is subjective.
Oof.
Ugliness is subjective.
Yes.
And God looks at us and says, you're broken. That's true. But you're not ugly. That's a subjective interpretation. And I reject that. You are beautiful. And I'm going to be with you. And I'm going to heal you. And I'm going to stay with you. And I'm going to take you with me to my home. Ugh. And that changed everything.
Oh my God.
So coming out of this, my new narrative, my deep narrative, is I knew it in a deep way. I'm not ugly. That's not who I am.
That's not true.
I'm broken.
It's not true.
I'm broken.
Yeah.
But I'm not ugly. I have been seen at the depths of who I am, and God has chosen me and loved me there. And Anna has too. And that just changed everything. I also may have just been so jacked up and had never done counseling that I was just crying. I was just ready for it.
I think it was Kairos time. What I've been saying lately, it's an Eastern quote, is when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
That's really good. Yeah.
And when the student is really ready, the teacher will disappear. And I think, whether that's Buddhist or whatever it is, I feel like I got that just from Jesus himself, because wasn't that the truth? When the person was ready, the man by the pool, the woman at the well, we could go on and on and on. He appeared. And I used to probably early theology years of my life believe it's when I would deserve it, or when I've been good enough, or when I've done the right things. But I'm old enough now to know none of that. Am I right?
No. Oh, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah. It is Kairos time.
It's Kairos time.
You can't look back and say, well, this was the algorithm that gave rise to this moment. It's so non-co-optable. Like, you can't do that at all. It's just
good. Thank you.
The sovereign election of the timing of God is like, now's the moment.
Now,
why am I ready in this moment? Who knows? But now's the moment.
But you went in for marriage counseling and just had a divine Emmaus Road experience with the Holy Spirit.
It changed everything. It felt like, and I talk about how going from that place, like, I had been having a reoccurring, just like, hard dream, and that dream stopped from that moment on. Just stopped.
Like a nightmare dream, not a good dream.
Not a good dream. Not a good dream. Yeah, it just stopped. Like, there was a sense.
Thank you, Father.
I just started sleeping deeper, and it's not like I could look at circumstantial shifts in my life, because there were still elements where I was struggling.
Of
but
course.
It felt like there was and I talk about the chapter after, which felt like a resurrection chapter. Oof. There was a deep death and healing that happened at the deepest, like, most core place in me, and it started to work its way out. Mm-hmm. It started to transform everything. Yeah. It started to move into my past, because I looked at old experiences, and I could look at the Russell in those experiences and say, well, he's just broken but not ugly. He's not ugly. Like, it changed everything. It was like a new light.
You just got it.
Like got it. It also started changing the future of how I was living into, because I was living in a new way now. Mm-hmm. So it just changed. It was like this light that dawned and just started to saturate the light.
Yeah, that's what I say. If you do this work, if you even do this work, and all you say every morning when you wake up, and this is my prayer every day, send me the teacher I need today, because I don't know what I don't know what I don't know. I don't know. I have done every therapy. I've done everything. I'm doing So obviously I'm missing something. And it's because of this whole, I feel like that's why Jesus in John 17 says, I'm leaving you. I'm leaving you. I think it's 16 or 17. I'm leaving you. I have to leave, because if I don't, I can't send you the comforter. And she is, whatever you believe, is the true healer. Like, I can spend millions of dollars on 1 million programs, listen to all kinds of healing podcasts, but it's going to be on this floor. It's going to be when I'm walking. It's just all of a sudden it comes. And
you can't rush it. Yeah.
You can't rush it. I can't even know what to expect. I don't know what to anticipate. I just don't. I'm just like this.
Yep, that's right. Yeah.
And then that's why I like to call it an endowment, right? A bestowed upon you because of his deep love for you, Russ, whatever. Russ. It's because of his deep.
I answered to both of them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's his deep love. Yeah. It's like, show me your love, God, because I'm not getting it. And, it's safe to say you were imaged God's love by your father. You write a lot about your father's prayer, your father's journey. What an image. You even had the image of it. But it has to become your own. So we talk a lot, in this community about secure attachment, insecure attachment. Well, you're just showing us that it doesn't matter we can embody the deep love of God. And that went so deep in you.
Yeah. That deep, secure attachment, that narrative of like, I'm broken, but I'm not ugly. That was mine. But what I talk about in this chapter is that we each have ours that is found at the cross. So that was like kind of my Golgotha moment. That was my cross moment.
For sure.
The power of the cross, and the cross, says Paul, is where we start. It's the starting place. That's the gospel. It's the starting place. But the power of the cross is we see a Jesus that has experienced our deepest, darkest wounds. So, for example, let's say that you were abandoned by your parents as a child. So your deep wound is, I am inherently abandonable, if that's a word.
Sure.
I am worthy to be abandoned, right? That's my deep wound.
Yep. I'm not lovable.
Right. If you will meet Jesus at the cross, at your cross and his, what will you find? Well, Jesus is the abandoned one.
Yeah.
He was abandoned by his followers. He knows precisely what it feels like to be abandoned. He even feels like he was abandoned by his father.
His father turned his face away. He allowed that to happen.
Who else knows what it's like to be abandoned by their parents but Jesus? Maybe you experience some abuse. You think, I'm the abused one. Well, who is Jesus at the cross? Right. Who's Jesus at the cross? He was abused by everyone. They was struck. He was flogged. He was put up on the cross. He didn't deserve that. And yet he knows exactly what it's like. So what I contend is the power of the gospel is the power of the cross. But it's not just Jesus's cross. It's ours too.
It's beautiful.
We have our own crucifixion wounds and moments, deep narratives. We have, like, if the story of the Gospels is also the human story, well, then we know what it's like in a metaphorical sense.
Yeah.
To be in a world that puts people on crosses, to have those wounds. And if we're willing to not just say that, because here's what I was willing to say. Here's what I thought. I thought Jesus loved me despite my wounds. What I didn't realize is that he loved me through them. That was the precise mechanism that God was using to reveal the depths of God's love. The place where we most clearly see the depths of God's love is the cross.
It
is the place of our deepest weakness, and not just his, but ours.
Yeah.
So it's not just meeting Jesus at his cross. If we're courageous enough and if we're ready for true healing, we're going to have to meet him at our cross too. And that's going to look different for each one of us. For me, it was my face. For me, it was, I'm ugly. That was the narrative it took. But when he met me in there, then it totally broke every power of sin, darkness,
and shame. That's where the shame goes. It's just gone.
Gone. All of that was out.
It's gone.
The foothold was gone.
Shut the door, foot's out.
Disarmed the powers. Disarmed all the powers.
I like that. Yeah, disarming is the key.
And that was so that's like really the core message of my church planting journey. Just reveals my very human wounds where the Lord was trying to meet me in those places, but it was the cross, my cross and his cross, where the final power, the final battle was fought, and he won. And he won my soul.
He always will. He always will. And is that where you felt, and then we'll close, is that where you felt kissed by God?
All of those that's where the biggest kiss took place, yes.
The biggest,
like all of the chapters were saying there's moments where God's love met me.
Oh, sure. Little hugs, little.
Yes, little, but it was like little skirmishes in a larger war, so to speak. That was the moment in that scene where the counselor had me go back and play some of the core like mythology around my deepest wound, my deepest trauma.
That. I love saying mythology.
And recognizing that Jesus was there, and as I talk about, and I won't go there, the God who went first, that Jesus had actually gone first.
Yeah, he had a face like yours. I love that. A face like mine. It's just unbelievable that you.
That's what it is, and he had that face before I had that face, which is just powerful. He was the God who went first, so that I could follow after him and know that I'll never be alone. That it won't get the last word over me, that his love is stronger than every power and force.
Stronger than death.
And when I experienced that kiss, the kiss not just in my life, but the kiss in my death, that's what the cross is.
Yes.
When I realized that this wound is my death, and that God goes, hey, I love you even in your death. I'm going to be with you even in your death.
Mhm.
Nothing, says Paul, can separate you. Nothing
Nothing. Romans 8.
from
Yeah.
my love. When I realized that, gosh, man, Satan is just laughable. What power does he have? He can't do anything.
I don't know,
God's love
but
is so strong, in Jesus Christ through that. There's no power Satan has. So that was the deepest kiss
Mhm.
for my deepest wound that healed it. And
Mhm.
then I talk about the next chapter going forward, turned it into a scar. Because that's the thing about wounds.
That's
When
right.
you're healed, you can't go back to a
Mm-mm.
pre-wound piece of flesh. It can
No,
only go
that's
and
so
going
good.
forward. There's healing, but you tell there was a mark there. You can
There's a
tell there was
mark.
pain there.
Hmm. There's a scar.
There's a
There's a
scar.
scar. A
There's a
sacred
scar.
scar, as my Dr.
Sacred
Michelle
scar.
Bankston would say. Yes.
And the scars, the wound, what were wounds for Jesus on Friday and objects of shame were
Hmm.
scars of boasting and scars of eternal glory on Sunday.
And
So I
proof
talk
and
about
belief and
quickly and become the central mark of our own testimony. They were
right.
the central mark of our
Our
shame.
shame.
Now they're the central mark of our testimony and of God's power.
Mm.
And we must hold them up. And so I say that I go, I thought that there's no way that Anna would want to kiss my scars because they were the most like unworthy parts of
Shaming.
me. But little did I know that on the last day, it will only be scars that are worthy of kisses. Those scars are
Yes.
the sign that God's love has entered and made whole and redeemed.
Wow.
We'll all be so scarred up in heaven, I think. I don't know what
I think if we could have our eyes open, like
yes.
I say that all the time, you can't see the scars on the heart. You can't see the
Yep.
scars on the
Yep.
soul. They're just not
100%.
visible. They're invisible scars, but they're sacred and they're holy. And so as our final thought here,
Yeah.
because I really thank you, Russell, from the deepest parts of my heart for helping us understand how to embody God's
Mm,
love. I
mm,
wish the teacher had appeared for me when I was younger, but it's okay.
mm.
My journey is my journey. And I just now want, because it just feels so good.
Yeah.
I wanted to like, what is that deeply embodying God's love for you? Does it feel like ease?
It,
Does it
it
feel
it
like
feels like, yeah, it feels like freedom. It feels like
freedom?
freedom.
Feels like freedom.
It feels like I'm trying to think of an analogy that jumps to mind. It's just such a confidence.
Hmm.
And it's not a confidence, it is a confidence in yourself,
It's both.
but it's a confidence in the Lord.
It's rest.
I think we know what it's like when we're living out of our wounds and the
Yeah.
shame. We feel like we're hiding. We feel like we're slouched over, like we're
Yeah.
hiding.
Oh yeah.
We're trying to evade. There's parts
Hmm.
of us we're trying to turn. Like
Hmm.
it's exhausting
It's
trying to hide.
exhausting. There it
So
is.
exhausting. And so there is that sense of freedom of like,
Ah,
whoa,
wow.
I can stand tall
Yeah.
and not feel any shame and rest and feel the sun on my face
I love that.
and know that literally nothing can kill me. Nothing. Because
Mhm.
I already died.
You
I,
did die.
I already died with him.
You did.
And if death wasn't enough to steal my life, that if he could love me and resurrect me even in the death, well, Satan is a fangless lion, as Augustine
Mhm.
says. He has
Oh, oof.
no, he's all bark. He looks big and
All bark, no
menacing.
bite.
He
Hmm.
can't do anything.
Yeah.
So the amount of ease and freedom that you can
Hmm.
walk in of knowing my true identity and
Hmm.
believing that at the depths of my being
Hmm.
is profound. I can't, and that's
No.
why I wrote this book, because I realized here I was as a pastor who was
Yes.
preaching a gospel of freedom, but there was
Yes.
layers of my soul that hadn't experienced it. How many of us are walking around thinking and truly knowing parts of the gospel,
And not knowing, though, I guess that's
but
my
not
argument.
knowing
Like,
in the depths?
why am I
Yes,
still
yes,
tripping? Why? Like, what is it? I
yes,
don't
yes,
know the depths of God's love for
yes,
me. It's the
yes.
answer.
That's
It's everything at the end of the journey. It's going to be, I know that I know that I know how much God loves me.
that's it. Yeah.
That's it. Please preach this. No pressure. No pressure for me.
Yep. Yep.
To the leaders,
Mm,
to the leaders, to the
mhm.
pastors, to the elders, to the leaders, to all of us, so that we can understand and embody that and then call back to those behind us, which is what I'm trying to do.
Imitate me as I imitate Christ.
Imitate me. I know. I finally can say that without feeling like, who do you think you are?
Right. Yeah, totally.
It's confidence in God. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you a million times. And I will tell everyone how to connect with you and get this book. Order it today and give it to everyone you know, and share this message with everyone you know, because it is, like you said, one of the things I really had down to talk to you about was shifts.
Do it.
Because I'm all about shifts right now, shifts on perspective. Because if we can have a shift, like you had a shift in that therapeutic alliance, and then your dad had these shifts, if we can have these shifts happen from the Holy Spirit, look out. We will advance the kingdom of God like never before.
Thanks, Janelle.
All of my heart.
Thanks for listening today. Please meet Janelle over at Heartlift Central on Substack at Heartlift Central, where we can keep this remarkable conversation going. Please share today's episode with a friend and invite them to become stronger every day. Heartlifter, always remember this: you have value, worth, and dignity.